Greetings. What's up? It's Deborah. Happy Monday to you. I'm gonna try to come on Mondays. I've never been really known for regularity with anything, so we'll see how this goes. But I want to come on and kind of share. There's so much that's happening that I can't capture often in writing and in posts because things are just happening so dynamically. So I want to just come on once a week and kind of share what's going on um, as it pertains to purpose driven leadership, as it pertains to navigating crisis, navigating collapse, navigating global transition, and doing so with optimism and grounded clarity, even when we don't have certain answers. Okay, so this is the period we're in. It's going to be on for a while, long after we've died and our children have become adults and our grandchildren are around, that we're going to be in this period of global transition. So it's not something that we are going to like panic and hope that it goes away in a year or two. Um, this is not that. And so right now, as we're in global transition, we're all here for a reason. And so I'm really excited to kind of share the insights that pop up that could be helpful for you. And this is not something that is coming from news trends or things like that. It's really truly coming from what's happening in the ether, what's happening on the spiritual planes that affects all of us, right? So mm, I don't even know where to start. I'll start with what I shared in the text, which is that I saw a memory come up from several years back, and I was so embarrassed. I cringed so much, and then I was like, but I have to. Not I have to, but I choose to respect, honor, and appreciate all of my parts, even the ones in the past that did things from an innocent and genuinely positive place, but yes, super missed the mark. So there was this post I had made about people calling me honey and baby, and I had a part that was just really super activated by that. It just wasn't okay. But then the way that I was presenting it was also not okay. So it was kind of mean and us versus them kind of energy. And so now I think I would, if I did share something about it, I would share it differently. Cultures are different, people are different. However, um, at the time, I felt very strongly that this was part of even when it was well meaning or well intended, that it was part of the word that's coming to me is subjugation of women. I don't think that that's the best word to use, but that's what's coming up. So I just felt very strongly about it, and I wanted to um, bring to the surface some things that I was concerned about around sexual harassment, around the boxing of women in many ways, putting them in boxes and putting labels on them, and assuming that they'd be okay with certain terms of endearment when they don't know you, things, those kinds of things. And the part was very valid in its concerns and in its feelings. Its feelings are always valid. However, I was super embarrassed when I saw it because I would definitely not present things that way now, right? Moving very far away from the polarizing us versus them language and from the idea that just because it upset my parts that I needed to voice it and air it and do so in a way that was adversarial. I would not do that now. This was me experimenting with storytelling and with presenting a message that was a little inflammatory in the story of separation. And I did a lot of experiments like that. That was just one that happened to pop up in my memories. And I was like, oh, but there were many experiments that I did like that. And so I don't judge that earlier versions of me. I got here today because of all of those experiments. But I think I want to start there to say that we're going to have things that we do that future us is going to be like, like really actually embarrassed about. And that's okay. If we wait for perfect knowledge and perfect skill and perfect abilities, we'll never get there. Okay, so nothing I'm going to share moving forward is about perfection. It's all about just making a little bit of progress, and really it's about raising awareness. Okay, so I preface that with my own embarrassment at previous versions of me's choices of communication that I experimented with. I didn't stay there long. I experimented and learned from the experiment and moved on. So the first thing I want to talk about is there's a book that we're reading in a book club. I'm not going to name it right now because I don't know what I'm going to say, so I don't I want to make sure I'm keep myself out of as much trouble as possible. But this book is one of, I would say the majority of books out there would support this book's premise, um, that the amassing of financial wealth is important even for the resistance to the current systems and the way that they extract and dehumanize and homogenize and all that good stuff, right? And I'm like, but the hoarding of wealth, but the accumulation of wealth, but you know, the wealth grab, you could say, is part of that story. So, one thing I'm starting to see, and you'll see this as a consistent theme in my work, is I'm trying my best to I'm trying my best to help people to step outside of a story and look at things from a different lens, from a more zoomed out lens. Which brings me to something else that I learned about myself or dove into a little bit more about myself over the past week. The A in my name, Deborah A, stands for Aduga, which is my Igbo name. And Ugo is the eagle, Ada is daughter. So it literally translates to daughter of the eagle. It's a name of honor in our culture. And the eagle always flies to the heights. It's usually very, 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 very high up. It lives on the cliffs and mountains. It doesn't live on the ground, right? And so when we think about an eagle, even in the Bible, the eagle is used to symbolize farsighted wisdom. And so the eagle can see the big picture, can see far ahead, and has like incredible eyesight, where it can even see like a little mouse on the ground, like a quarter of a mile away. Like it has this ability to really see very far. And so when you think about the name that I have been given, it's about zooming out. It's about looking at things from a higher vantage point, not as in like superiority, but just purely as in distance, to be able to see further, to see more of the context. And that is, I've definitely lived up to that name, because all of my work, all of my content is about zooming out. It's about seeing the bigger picture. It's about stepping outside of the little box and seeing more of the context. So I'm always encouraging people to do that. And I encourage people to do that when it comes to your view of money, your view of all of the different forms of capital that we engage in on a daily basis in the real economy. So, um, unfortunately, when we think about economics, typically in our modern world, economics gets paired with finances. And finances or financial capital is one of eight different forms of capital. So we have living capital, we have material capital, we have intellectual capital, we have experiential capital, we have social capital, we have spiritual capital, we have cultural capital. We don't just have financial capital. It is, yes, one of the forms, but it's not the only one. And our world is out of balance because of the profit imperative, which only focuses on financial capital and it doesn't acknowledge all the other forms of capital that are required for life to exist. In fact, financial capital is dependent on all those other capitals that I shared with you because without financial capital, without those other forms of capital to extract from, there would be no financial capital. Okay, look at the cultural stories that we have that are then extracted and turned into books or records or albums and sold. Look at the living capital that we have, which is literally water, soil, plants that are extracted from and sold. Look at the intellectual capital that is extracted from and sold all of the time, right? Not saying that all of those forms of extraction are 100% bad. However, the way that it's done in business as usual, usually it does more harm than good. So, zooming out is seeing what the true economy is. The economy is economy being from the Greek word that really means uh, care for the household. So it's all forms of managing and caring for our home, Earth, eco being the Earth, not just financially. It's spiritually, it's emotionally. And because we're not acknowledging all the other forms of capital, but we're extracting from them to build financial capital, we are in a very lopsided situation right now, and we're killing ourselves and everybody and all life on the planet. We're killing everything. But of course, that's not going to last forever because Earth is gangster. She's not going to let herself get completely killed, and we're also seeing that as well. Okay. So right now, what we have is a global transition, a global meta crisis, whatever you want to call it, global collapse of old systems, collapse of old systems to make way for something that's more sustaining of how life actually works. Now, have indigenous cultures been 100% perfect in what they've put together? No. However, they did spend millennia listening to the planet, listening to the plants and the animals and the weather patterns and paying attention to that. So they definitely were more connected than what we've had in our post-colonial society. Well, current I don't even know what we call it now. It's hard for me to keep track of all the terms, but our current society that's in transition um, has been completely disconnected from our soil, so from our earth. So this is one of the things that we can build from indigenous wisdom, um, and we can build from the indigenous wisdom of the former stewards of the lands that we're living on, most of which are stolen. It's not uncommon for us to be living on stolen land. However, we can also look to our own ancestry and our own lineage to find ways of grounding our wisdom, grounding our knowingness in something beyond our minds. Okay? So, coming back to the idea of accumulation of wealth to be part of this revolution or to fight against or to resist the powers that be, it's flawed reasoning. However, we can still learn a lot and grow a lot and resist really effectively if we expand our focus to beyond being going beyond financial capital. So that's kind of what I wanted to say there. One more thing I'm going to say before I close for today is I really want to honor all of the voices and all of the thought leadership that has brought me to this point. None of what I've learned have I learned in isolation. And there have been many authors and speakers that I've learned from, whether it's because I really resonate and agree with what they say, or because I disagree with what they say, and yet there's some like tension between, yeah, what they're saying is accurate in a way, but it still doesn't feel right. Those are the best teachers because it's in exploring that tension and that dissonance that I learn a lot about who I am, what the messages that I'm here to offer in the world, what medicine I have that I'm carrying, and also like of who would best be suited to listen and to be a part of this, to co-create this work together. So everything I do is co-creative. I just wanted to let you know in closing that this Thursday we're having a community discussion on what, asking for and receiving what you need. Very, very important skill set for the era that's emerging, not the era that's dying. Oh, it would have been great then too, but for sure for the era that's emerging, we do things very differently. So I want to encourage you to join us if you can. I'm going to put the link in the comments later, and you're welcome to join us. Or you can also find it in my bio, on my whatever profile. All right, much love. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and hopefully I'll see you next Monday. Bye.